Hello and welcome to the TalkingKnits podcast, coming at you live from the banks of the Missouri River. Let's do this thing. And hello and welcome to episode 9 of the TalkingKnits podcast, take 2. My name is Shelly, also known as the TalkingKnits podcast on Instagram, and starfischcrafts on Ravelry. I also have an Etsy store, starfischcrafts, where you can find all my fun stuff. Knitting, this is a knitting and crocheting and whatever I feel like talking about podcast. And I am coming to you from Cottleville, Missouri, where I live with my husband Brian and our fat cat Mondo, who is currently keeping watch by the tripod. He loves all things yarn, unfortunately a little bit too much for a cat, so we have to keep everything kind of at a distance. But if you know me, you will know that that is one of the tangents that I will get off on, because apparently we are on the tangent roller coaster. So this is the second version of this podcast. I was working on a first version, but I didn't really like the way it looked, so I decided to record it again. So this is take 2 of episode 9. You'll also probably notice a location change. This is just, I just moved it into a different location in my apartment just because it didn't look very good where I normally film. So we just decided to film in here. It looks alright to me. Anyway, so the last time we talked, I had just gotten back from Kansas City and done some knitting on the train. You saw some of that in the footage in episode 8. I'm pleased to say I have finished those socks and I will show them in the finished objects. Busy season at work is over for the most part. All the retakes are almost complete. Now we're just working on getting the Christmas stuff ready and packaging up the gifts for all the schools that we do, and that's been it at work. I also got a new car and it's doing really well. It's a 2024 RAV4 hybrid that I named Loki. And it works really well. It's great for my commute, which is kind of far, so that's pretty much it. So I know you guys are here for the knitting and crocheting content, so let's get started. Before we get to the finished objects, I wanted to let you know what I am wearing. I am wearing a sockhead slouch beanie. I'll put the name of the pattern and the designer down below. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I've knit several of these. I actually knitted this one a couple of years ago, and I don't remember the yarn. I picked it up at a yarn shop, and this yarn shop no longer exists, so I'm not able to check, unfortunately, but it is kind of a stripy yarn with yellow and blue and purple. And the good thing about this is you can actually move it up as much as you want, and you can have, it's about a 4-inch brim. So what you do is, I'm not going to take it off because my hair looks very interesting, but it's a 4-inch brim, and then you knit up in stockinette, and then you do the decreases. It's actually a pretty simple hat. It does use fingering weight yarn, but I'm sure if you wanted to use like a DK weight or something like that, then you probably could. So that is what I'm wearing today. So now on to finished objects. I have a pair of socks completed. It is the vanilla sock in DK weight by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. And it is a free pattern on Ravelry if you're interested. And before I had one sock complete, and now I have 2 socks. The sock blockers are kind of large, so you'll have to bear with me because they do look a bit shorter than they actually are when you put them on. And you see it's a heel flap and gusset, and then I think 10 rounds for the cuff and then 30 rounds for the leg. Either way, it's in the pattern, so you'll be able to figure it out from there. And the colorway is Lonnie Bunny's Enchanted Yarns, and I do have to make a correction. I have been saying that it's Lure of the Lake. It's actually not. It's a color called Afterglow, which is a really fantastic color, and I've actually seen Lure of the Lake knit up at my local yarn shop, and it's fantastic. It's gorgeous, and I am definitely taking advantage of the sales this weekend when I go for the open stitch, and I am definitely buying me a skein of Lure of the Lake so I can actually make socks out of that as well. So that is my only finished object, so now we can get to work in progress, and I have several, so let's get started. So one of the finished objects that I'm not showing today is the Musselburgh hat. I have been working on it, however, it's kind of more of the same, and I've added about an inch or two on it, and it's currently in my car, so I don't really want to get it, but needless to say, if you do want to look at the Musselburgh hat, you can actually look at some of my other episodes, and you can see kind of where it's at, but it looks like more of the same. So I'm going to start with a pair of socks that I am working on right now. It is living in my Dragonfish Handmade Goods bag. She is an upcycler. She uses bits of leftover fabric to make her bags, and they are fantastic. She's having some really good Black Friday sales, so you should check her out. Dragonfish Handmade Goods on Instagram, I believe, is her handle. If not, I can put it below here, and I will put any correction if it's not correct. But either way, this is, let me open it. And this is the pair of socks that I'm currently working on. That is the wrong side, hold on. And this yarn, sorry for the shaking, it's all part of the show, folks, is the Potion Yarns in the Sassy Pants colorway. It is a fingering weight yarn. And this is just a vanilla sock pattern that I've kind of Frankensteined out of a lot of different patterns. The vanilla sock pattern by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady is one that I use. Also the Fish Lips Kiss Heel. I can't remember the name of the pattern designer, but I'll link it down below if I can find it. And then just, so the way that I do it is I do 17 rounds for the cuff, 60 for the leg, a Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and then a rounded toe. The reason that I do a Fish Lips Kiss Heel is just that I'm doing a color change here. I don't have the mini with me, but it's from the Lemonade shop, and it's like a bright purple, so it'll go with a lot of the purples in here, and it'll make it really pop. But either way, this is where I've gotten on it so far. I am counting my rounds, so you can see the stitch markers back here. Oh, let me try that again. Yep, you can see them. I'm just marking my rounds so that when I make the second sock, I can just take them off, and then I will make sure that I'm knitting kind of the same size sock. I know your gauge can change depending on like how stressed you are. I know there's a section of my Musselburgh hat when we were going through some really busy times at work. It's so much tighter than the other ones, and then it just loosens up. So I kind of tend to go by inches, especially on the foot, just because I don't necessarily think that it's a good idea to go by rounds, just because sometimes your gauge changes. But in this case, I'm just going to go by rounds, just because I'm the only one who's going to be wearing the socks. And that is my socks, and I have, I think, yeah, 2 more knitted whips, and then I'm gonna go to crochet ones. But here we go. Got a little bit of a assembly line going here so that we can look at them here. And this gorgeous scarf here, or what I've got of it so far, is the Easy Scarf pattern. It's by Diane L. Augustin, I believe. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And so far so good. The yarn that I'm using is the Honey Girl Farms in the green Apple Jolly Rancher colorway. It is part of the Candy Shop series. And unfortunately, Mondo really likes this yarn. I don't know if whoever made it possibly owns something that Mondo likes, but either way, he likes to attack it, so I've been trying to keep it out of his reach. But either way, it's just a project that I go to when I've been working on something complicated and I just need a break. Actually, the way that I found it is just Googling easy scarf patterns, and I found it on Ravelry, and it's a really straightforward pattern. The person that did it actually used striping yarn, like self-striping yarn, and it looked really pretty, but I just decided to do a solid color because I'll probably have it for the winter or just maybe give it as a gift. I'm not sure, but that is the scarf, and I have one more here. Let me get the yarn because it's kind of awkwardly in here. But I finally split for the sleeves on my flax sweater. Hold on a second, let me get it organized. Let me make sure I had the front. All right, so that is that. Let me see if I can back up a bit. Yep. So like I said, this is the flax sweater by TalkingKnits. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it is also on their app. And I also wanted to point out, hold on, I got some yarn barf here, but if you notice, the little stitch stoppers I picked up in Yarn Social in Kansas City, Missouri. I don't know exactly the creator of the stitch stoppers, but if you go to Yarn Social in Kansas City or anywhere that carries them, you could probably find them. Well, obviously, if they carry them, you can find them, but that's beside the point. I personally picked them up at Yarn Social in Kansas City, so if you're in the Kansas City area, definitely check them out. They had a lot of, when I went, it was at Halloween, so they had a lot of Halloween stitch stoppers, and they probably have some Christmas ones too, so if you're interested and you're local, definitely check them out. And that is it for the knitted works in progress. So let me show you the crocheted works in progress. Let me get them real quick and I will be right back. So for my crocheted works in progress, I'm currently working on the Granny Hexagon cardigan. It is a paid-for pattern on Etsy. It's by Craft and a Cuppa, and you can also access a YouTube tutorial of it when you buy the pattern. There is a link in there. And this is what I have so far. I'm actually working the panels 2 at a time, just so I don't have to go back and do the second panel after I'm done with the first one. And right now, I am using the same yarn that I'm using in my sweater, which is Pretty in Pink by Red Heart Super Saver. And then I have a couple of other colors in here, just a light green and a really, really dark green. You can kind of see when the light hits it, but it does kind of look black otherwise, but that's okay because I like the colors together. I was kind of thinking it looked like watermelon, and I thought that was kind of funny. But I've gotten to the dark green part on here, and then I've gotten to the light green on this one. So I haven't woven in my ends on all of the cardigan, but I do have my reason for that. It was because when I was working on it, it ended up that I had to go back and rip back. But when I had woven it in, I had tied it in a knot, so I actually ended up having to rip back 2 rows instead of 1. So there is merit to not weaving in your ends. I haven't quite proven that yet, but at least in this case it does merit you to at least have those ends out so that you can fix them if something like that were to occur. And then the second crocheted work in progress I have is the Granny Stripe Blanket. It's by Addict 24. And when you last saw it, I was working on the second stripe. I was maybe about halfway done. So now I've actually started on the third color. It's a little bit big. I'm still here. Either way. I've worked on the third row and then part of the fourth row on this side. So it's going to have a couple of different shades of purple and then a center part that's white. And then it'll repeat on the other side. And the reason that I was doing that, it was originally going to be this one color down at the bottom, but I didn't have enough, and it was going to be somewhere between $12 and $24 to replace it. And so I'm going to wait until maybe there's a deal or something, and then you never know, I might get some more and make another project out of it. But that is the end of my whips. I have a ton of them, but we did get through the whips. So now let's go to acquisitions. So I only have one acquisition because right now everything's kind of in transit, but here it is. It is a set of crochet hooks. Sorry if the plastic is reverberating my voice, I apologize. But I actually got these on Amazon and they were, I think, $9. And so far so good. I mean, they're very sturdy, and they actually, let me take one out. Sorry about the crackling here, but squeak. But if you see, they've got it written on here that it's an H hook, and then it's actually put in there on the other side. Like, I guess it's kind of it's just engraved in there technically. I don't know what you would call it when you put it into rubber, but that is the only acquisition that I have. I'm definitely going to be getting some more yarn since the Black Friday deals are happening, and I picked up this really pretty bag from this company called Ginger Snap Fibers, and if you don't follow her on Instagram, you totally should. She has a website and she sells project bags and other things like yarn. And you can, I will link her down below as well, both her Instagram and her shop. And I also, for non-knitting related things, I also have a new figurine that's coming in. It is supposed to be here today if you're interested in that sort of thing. It's just a Hatsune Miku figurine, and it is future Miku. So I have a couple of her figurines. I have the Q Posket and the Funkos, as well as a Christmas Miku, which is back there. I'll put in a picture of it right here if you're interested, and then I'll put a picture of the future Miku if you're interested. But that is the end of acquisition, so let's get on to what's happening in my life. If you're not really that interested and you were just here for the knitting content, then it was nice talking to you, and I hope to catch you on the flip side. But in the meantime, let's get to life. So now I'm going to let you know what's happening in my life, and not very much that I haven't covered. For those of you who are not in America, Thursday was Thanksgiving, and I spent it with my mother-in-law and her brother, and my brother-in-law and his wife, and their lovely border collie named Daisy. And we had a homemade Thanksgiving dinner. His mom made a lot of it, and then they brought in sides from somewhere. It was a very good dinner. I worked on Black Friday. It was kind of a chill day. I mean, I was working on this project that was taking me like 2 or 3 days, and I finally finished it. It was a chore, because the way that it works is normally you have the data for each person in there already, but what I have to do is, because it was taken in the studio, they don't have that information. So I had to enter manually data for 126 pictures, as well as crop them and do all the stuff that you have to do when it comes to being in production and school photography. So that actually took me a couple of days because I was doing other things at work too. And so I finally finished it on Saturday, or Friday rather, and I was so excited. It was, but other than that, we'll be moving on to spring photography soon. So spring photography is basically, it's similar, but you have to crop every single picture. It's very in-depth, and after that we go to graduation photos, and then either the season is over and I will be relocated to another department, or, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen after that, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they do keep me on as a full-time employee. We will see. I don't know if I could cut it as a full-time YouTuber, so I'm kind of hoping that I do end up keeping my job. But either way, I am going out with my husband tonight. We're just having a little date night and relaxing because he's finally off of work for the week. He works in a warehouse and they process a lot of stuff for Black Friday, and they have a lot of sales. I don't want to say specifically where he works, but they do have a lot of Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales, so he's been nice and busy. So we're doing that, and then tomorrow I'm going to my local yarn shop for our open stitch night, or open stitch afternoon rather. And there's about maybe 15 or 20 of us that come in and just knit and crochet and chat. Everyone's super nice, and if you're in town and you're St. Louis local, I would totally recommend going into YarnCom and checking out their shop because it's really nice. We used to have a ton more yarn shops, but unfortunately a lot of them closed. Sorry about that. I think right now there's about 3 of them, and those are the ones that are still open. There's one in Creve Coeur, there's one in South County, and there's one in Florissant. So if you know St. Louis, then that's where you should go to check out yarn for sure. Let me see if there's anything else. So we finished season 2 of Loki. It was amazing. Way to end it. I don't think it could have gone any better. I almost kind of hope they don't come back for a season 3 because I think they would kind of ruin it if they did that. I don't watch much else TV. I've been kind of keeping up with some YouTube podcasts, just some basic stuff. Some of the ones that I mentioned last week. Also, a new one that I like is Juan the Yarn Addict. I've been watching a lot of him, and O Day Crochet, because I've recently gotten back into doing crochet and I haven't done as much crochet in the past, so I'm getting into those. And also, let me see, trying to think if there's anybody that I've left out that I really like. I would have to think about it, but I will definitely write some down in the description box like I did last time. But that, I And with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know that there's a lot of other podcasts that you could check out, but I'm glad you came into my corner of the universe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.